Mike DeCourcy, national college basketball writer, Hall of Fame college basketball writer, national columnist for Sporting News, joins us on the Adam Gold Show. So you and I are on the same side of this argument, but I'm going to try and play devil's advocate a little bit, just to be that. See if I can't stir you up. Mike, they're going to expand the NCAA tournament. Why can't we all just accept it?
Well, I think that when people have terrible ideas and it still hasn't occurred, then it's our obligation as those who understand and recognize that they're terrible ideas to try to get them to stop it. Otherwise, why are we here? What's the point for any of us? Our job, first of all, our job as journalists and commentators is to try to stop it. And second of all, as those who consume the sport, fans and such, they also have an obligation to try to make it known to the people who are running things. This is a bad idea. We don't want this. This is not something that we will embrace. Don't do it.
And in sports, the court of public opinion, or maybe our opinion, I guess we're part of the public opinion anyway. In sports, that can still be effective. I'm not entirely sure that it can be in real life. Would it damage? What damage would it do? What would expanding to 76? What damage would that do to the NCAA tournament?
First of all, I think that what we have to understand is we're talking about a couple of different things. Relative to the NCAA tournament, for those who want to view it in a certain way, it has no impact at all. I turn on the television at noon Thursday. They talk to me for about 15 minutes, and then they turn on their first game, and it hasn't changed for me. If all I care about is watching basketball, that hasn't changed. But the first element of that we have to consider that does change is the bracket pool. That gets a lot of people, not me. I'm watching anyway.
Right.
Not even if it's not my job, I'm watching. But it's not about me. It's about those people who tune in to this tournament who do not turn in for the entire year. That's what makes it worth $1.1 billion. A lot more people watch college basketball than is generally acknowledged, but it's because it is so fractured, so many different venues, so many different colleges. You add it all up, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's still not nearly what they get when the NCAA tournament starts on Thursday at noon. Those numbers are like if in most of the NFL, it's X times 2,
Right.
like regular season to the late playoffs, and then of course the Super Bowl is a totally different thing. But in college basketball, it's X times like 5. That's what you're getting. You're getting so many more people to come into this, and that's what they're risk losing. And this is why CBS and Turner are like, no, we don't want this.
Right.
We know where they come from. A lot of those people come from the office pool, and we want them to keep coming. And if you throw another 8 teams into the thing that they have to figure out between Wednesday night and Thursday morning, a lot of people are just going to say, why bother? Right now, you only have to think about 2 teams because everybody's going to pick the 6 teams to lose anyway. And then you just have to worry about, do you think that the 12 or the 11 can win their first round game if it's that particular team, Carolina in this case, et cetera. That's all but if you throw another 6 teams on top of that you have to worry about, then you've completely disrupted the way brackets are done. And you've given them almost no time to do it. And I think that a large portion of people would just surrender on it. And then the secondary element of it is the damage that would be done to college basketball's regular season, which doesn't need any damaging as we stand.
First of all, I mean, in all honesty, I'm not sure that those people, like enough people, would back out of a tournament if we had 2 first fours. We have a first 4 and a vice first 4, a second first 4. I don't know what it would be. I guess it would have to be called a first 8 at that point. So I'm not sure people would back out, but either way, that isn't even part of the bracket now. Anyway, you don't have to have, like if you fill it out online, you don't have to have your bracket in until noon Thursday, which to me, like, why are we ignoring these games on Tuesday and Wednesday? But we are. Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News is joining us here. But you brought up North Carolina. And the argument is that, for a lot of people, that we're leaving out good teams from the NCAA tournament. As somebody who does bracket projections, I used to, don't do it anymore. I know you do it, and you do it well. So you study the teams. Do you think that we are leaving out good teams?
No.
Thank you.
No. That's a preposterous contention. It's almost offensive. As someone who has done this now, and I'm not sitting here saying I've done it as long as Joe Lunardi has.
Right.
Joe's been at it since the mid '90s, and he's and good for him for everything, all the success he's had. He's a friend. I really like him, and good for him. But I've been doing it since the 2020 season. So I got a perfect bracket that year because we didn't have a tournament. But then for the last 5 years, I've been doing this, and I see what's on the other side of that line. And it's not, there are no teams out there that you're saying, wow, I mean, how did they leave them out?
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't happen. I mean, once every 10 years, maybe they get one totally wrong. It's been a very long time. I think the last time I would say they got one totally wrong, I mean, not a matter of opinion, but totally wrong, was Monmouth in 2017, I believe it was. I think that's the last one. So it's almost been a decade. So we're probably due for one more, but this would blow that up completely. And it would. What bothers me about it, honestly, is that if you go to 76 and you allow all those teams to get in, you're essentially saying anybody that's any good at all, like that even has a couple of good weeks. I mean, you look at Texas A&M; they got left out. I think it was in 2022. It was them or Notre Dame, and they actually played in the regular season, and Texas Tech won. But then Texas Tech went through February in the SEC and went like 1-11 or something like that, or 1-9, something awful. And then they bounced back with a pretty good conference tournament, and the committee still said no. There were those of us who would argue, because we picked it, that Texas A&M belonged.
Right.
But there wouldn't be any of us who would argue that they were a worthy tournament team. It was just that team that's not quite good enough, or that team that's not quite good enough, and had to be one or the other. Why do we want 8 more teams that aren't quite good enough?
So there goes my devil's advocate. Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News at TSN Mike on Twitter is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Carolina is the best example of that last year. Like, I knew what Carolina could be. I really did. I thought, man, if they put it all together, I think Carolina could end up in the second week of the NCAA tournament. But at the same time, I had watched them all year, and I knew what they were. And what they were was a team that didn't belong in the field. They still got in. Still don't know how that happened, but they got in. And like, I'd like to believe they didn't get in because they were North Carolina, but I mean, it's kind of hard to really believe that based on what their resume said. There was nothing about them that screamed they should be in the field, except that you have to take 37 at-large teams. So to me, it isn't just the teams that are on the other side of the line. It's the teams that are on the right side of the line that don't really pass the NCAA tournament smell test. That, to me, is how you say, well, yeah, we're not leaving out. If you get left out, then you didn't belong. Because I think there are teams who get in that didn't really belong. Was it a mistake? Because I actually think mistake's probably not the right word. We could have stayed at 64. Why didn't we just stay at 64?
Well, it started with the expansion of conferences. We had 31 conferences
right.
for a long time, and so you had to have. They didn't want to shrink the at-large pool just because some two conferences split in. One conference split into two different directions. They didn't want to shrink the at-large pool for that reason, so they just said, "Okay, here's the play-in game." And
right.
then ultimately, there was some agitation for expansion around 2010, mostly coming from the coaches. And they at that point thought that they might even have to go to 96 to get the money where they wanted it because that was ESPN's idea.
Right.
And then Turner and CBS decided to merge, so to speak, for the coverage of this tournament, and 68 was the compromise. And I was totally fine with that because it really didn't impact the structure of the field. It didn't impact what made the tournament appealing. It didn't appreciably impact the drive to get into the field at the end of the season among the teams that were on the bubble. It didn't really have a negative impact, but this would, because you would be expanding again to, as you said that those teams that were in Dayton last year didn't belong. You'd be expanding that by an extra 8 teams of teams that didn't belong. And my biggest concern in all of this, I think it's Turner CBS's concern about what happens to the audience for the tournament. But my biggest concern is what happens to the drama of the end of the regular season. Matt Norlander at CBS is totally with me on this. He's written about this, and I talked about it on television. The final weeks of the regular season this year were phenomenal. And in the Big Ten, which, of course, I cover for Big Ten Network, we had intersections by providence among Ohio State, Indiana, and Nebraska, all of which were on the bubble. And they were playing each other knowing that if they lost that one, man, they were in big trouble.
Right.
And those games become so compelling as a result. And we will be taking that and chucking it in the bin so we can have 4 more games on Tuesday and Wednesday that nobody really wants to watch. Why would we do that?
I'm with you. The first 4 games, look, I watched Carolina, San Diego State. Of course, that was just so non-competitive. I watched that, and I watched NC State when they were in it the other year. Again, local interest. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I'll get to it. I mean, I may not watch the first half, even though it starts at like 9, but I'll get to it eventually. And the other game, I feel bad. Like, I get the smaller leagues, and the final question will be about mid-majors, but I think the smaller leagues have convinced themselves that because it counts as an NCAA tournament win, it's really cool. But I think you're robbing teams from getting your shot at a 1 seed. I think the 16 versus 16, I get it. You get a chance maybe to win. You have a good chance to win an NCAA tournament game, and it counts. But, man, you're just robbing a UMBC type team from playing against the Virginia. Final question for Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News. Because this is the other argument, that it would be good for the mid-majors. And to me, this is not driven by anything other than the major conferences getting more teams into the field. So how would this possibly be good for the mid-majors?
Oh, it's kind of a fantasy that they hold on to. That if it were expanded, their avenue to get into the tournament would be greater. But the reality is, it wouldn't be. And only on the very rarest of occasions would they get more opportunities to get in. It still is going to be primarily the 5 major conferences and the Mountain West. Well, who knows? I guess it'll be the Pac-12 by then. I don't, but them as the sort of like the fringe. I don't think the Atlantic 10, as great a league as it is, I don't think they've made smart business decisions for a while. I think they've overexpanded, and I think it's hurt them in many ways, and I think it has helped erode their basketball product. And it has also eroded the value of the excellent teams they do have because they get weighed down by playing a lot of games against teams that aren't that level. And so all of that means that when we get to, if we have 76, it's going to be almost exclusively, there'll still be 1 or 2 here and there maybe, but like George Mason a year ago, which was had a very nice year in the Atlantic 10. But George Mason would not have gotten into 76 if that had been the rule last year. They were a 20-plus win team, the runner-up in the league regular season, the runner-up in the tournament, but they would not have gotten in last year. Now, if VCU had lost to Mason in the A-10 final and we were at 76, then maybe they get in. But that's what would have to happen in order for a team like that to make it. Like Indiana State of 24 probably makes it in that universe, that 76 team universe. But they don't produce a lot of teams like that in the
Right.
Valley. They might, if they do produce
They
a
used
team
to.
that's great, they win it, like Drake did last year.
Yeah, that league, the Missouri Valley, used to be a league that produced 2, 3, maybe 4 NCAA tournament quality teams. I think we're actually going to see fewer and fewer of those as we go further and further along in the NIL revenue sharing space. I think this is going to be. I think it's going to be bad for football down. We'll just call it down ballot, and I think it'll be bad for basketball down ballot too. Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News. We will talk again very soon, my friend. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Anytime, Adam. Thank you.
You got it. Mike DeCourcy here on the Adam Gold Show.